Tapping in.
Are we live?
Yeah. I get that. But is we live though? Is we like all the way live though? You heard?
Mr. Miles Xavier.
Mo, bad news, man. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, but like you're right. It has been a pretty heavy week when it comes to information. When it comes to the type of news that we're getting in. Just to check on your end, sir. How's my connection coming through?
You're sounding crispy. You're sounding crispy over there. How am I coming through?
A bit weak in the connection, but I'll continue. So part of the most shocking news this week obviously has come from Ukraine, right? Has come from the Russia invading Ukraine this week. As we speak, we're currently 4 days into the invasion, which is an accurate term of how to be able to encompass it. And it feels like World War III is happening potentially outside.
Yeah. And also weirdly, like, we don't know how to react, right? Like, I mean, just it's so strange to see memes about a war kicking off, right? Like,
Yes, and we're serious, right? We're serious. However, those Chief Keef memes killed me.
I know, yeah, and it's such a weird like space of like, yeah, we need that levity because like, it's what else are we gonna do, right? But like, laugh to keep from crying. But there's a sense of like, I don't know, yeah. How do we take this seriously? How serious is this? How worried should any of us be? What is the chances of this spilling over to other nations? Zway. We need answers.
Well, given that I'm 3 hours away from where they'd consider the fighting place, I am very worried, is how you could put it. I am all the way worried about this situation. And I think it's because when COVID hit, we did not believe the type of existence that we'd have to endure. If we were in the airport together February of 2020 when COVID was just cooking up and was about to spill over. And we couldn't, there were signs that were telling us to be vigilant and whatever the case is, but we couldn't have taken that more lightly. We didn't believe in that existence, but then it happened. And that's exactly what the people of Ukraine have woken up to. And I am no longer in a mindset to believe that those are things that are isolated outside of my universe. Clearly, these types of things can happen. The Ukrainians 48 hours ago, by most accounts, in Kiev specifically, the main capital city, were living ordinary lives.
Yeah, that's crazy, and I like that comparison you made. Just from the standpoint of how jarring it is, right, to find yourself in a different threat level all of a sudden. Why is this happening? Was this predictable? Was there a build up to this? Like, I mean, there wasn't a couple of weeks, right? We were seeing it on the news. We didn't talk about it on the show. I think honestly, subconsciously, we were both like, we hope this is nothing. And
no way they're gonna do it.
Yeah, we hope there's nothing to talk about. But there's been a short build up to this. But historically, what's the context?
So the context historically is that Russia and Ukraine have been in a war for a while, and there's no way of being able to describe it without appreciating the geography of it. So Ukraine is stuck perfectly between Russia and between the EU, which is what makes it such a point of contention. Is part of it is its positioning. It's Russia's closest neighboring country to the European Union. And so Ukraine was part of the RSSR, the Soviet Union, before it collapsed, 1991. And I do remind you, it's trippy because, I spent some years in Kazakhstan. Shout out to the parents for being able to take us out there. But it feels like a Soviet country, bro. Like when you're in places like Kazakhstan, it feels like what you think Russia might look like.
So I thank man. Thank you for laying out the geography to help us kind of understand. So strategically, Ukraine is a point of contention for Russia, because if they are in conflict with the other EU countries over anything, that's the ground that stands between them and their forces. So they've been very particular about the policy and the different changes that can happen internationally, that as it pertains to Ukraine, specifically the Crimean Peninsula. And a lot of what we're seeing that is unfolding now is a result of Russia annexing the Crimean Peninsula after there were large-scale protests in the Ukraine, because some say Russia was pressuring that the president at the time to not engage in a free trade agreement with the EU, right? Trying to block kind of coalition building and collaboration between the EU and Ukraine, because it is such a they don't want too much collaboration between the EU and Ukraine. They want a buffer between them. And so when there were protests that erupted about the president that didn't want to form that collaboration with the EU, I guess it's the argument is made that look at me trying to be careful walking on eggshell, but the argument is made that Russian forces invaded the Crimean Peninsula to kind of secure that area, as there was fear that Ukraine might collaborate more with the EU.
There you go. There you go. And so back into the context of the geography context, like the geographical context, like you have explained, right, in terms of the protests that were happening in the Crimean side, the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, because we pronounce those things out here. We give y'all information. Now you go quote that at a dinner party and look cool. All the same.
Nah, I commend you, brother. I was dancing around things to have to pronounce. I was like, let me keep it Russia, Ukraine. Crimea?
It's pronounced Ukraina. Okay.
It's not.
It is.
Is it?
Do you think it's pronounced Ukraine? Bro, you think in Ukraine they say, hey, welcome to Ukraine? Do you think that's what they say?
Sorry for my white supremacy.
It's not white supremacy. It's just it's American hubris. Americans go to places, create new words for them, and make them that, and that's the word for that, like Ukraine.
Yeah, but that doesn't come from me as a Black person. That comes from the overall American society. And so, sorry, look at me dodging, talking about the American dream. But unfortunately, as it always does, race has a place in this story, and what we're seeing. So we'll get into that in a bit. But let me kick it back to you to wrap up the context.
Yeah, man, and you pretty much explained it regarding the eastern border of Ukraine with the two cities that we had mentioned. The spark off, so back into those protest Miles was referring to, that's around 2014. So essentially, we've seen 8 years of this happening on that border. There's been many of Vice documentaries that have come out where they have explored it on the Ukrainian eastern front, where people have been saying, "Hey, yo, although this is dormant at the moment, at any point in time, this could spill over." That's exactly what happened with the two of those eastern cities claiming their independence. Russia claiming their independence and claiming to be a part of Russia. Russia supporting that and essentially using that population of people to justify the full-blown invasion into the Ukrainian main city, which brings us into the battles that we're seeing today. A friend of mine, a person who I'm in a course with right now, has a friend in Ukraine right now, and he's saying that I can only imagine the panic that you would have having a friend whose life is being interrupted by war. He's saying there's shelling that's happening into the city. People are sleeping in subways. They're sleeping in bunkers. Connection is hard because the government has turned off the internet. Information is hard to get to. So, man, I can only imagine what people are going through that are being affected by this.
Yeah, and the number of people affected by this is international, right? I was at a conference this past 3 days in San Diego which is a beautiful thing to get a little bit of sunshine when you're in Chicago for the winter. To break out to San Diego for February was dope. Dope conference supporting a grant that we got to explore victim compensation for people who are injured. They're eligible for some moolah, right? But typically Black people don't get it. We're trying to figure out why. And so we're in San Diego kind of putting our heads together around this grant. And one of the women that's on my team, she's Ukrainian. Her mother still lives in Ukraine. And while at the time they weren't anywhere where they were close to fighting, still thinking about evacuating, obviously something that's on her mind while she's trying to do work with us. So this affects so many people, and I'm embarrassed to say that until this happened, I didn't know she was Ukrainian, right? I never asked her about her background in that way. And so, yeah, this is far-reaching implications. And like you said, you being even a couple of borders away, right? Like we try and keep it light because we laugh to keep from crying, like we said. But yeah, I mean, I hope this doesn't increase in intensity at all or get anywhere near you or any of my peoples.
Hey man, I am worried. Okay, I'm worried. There's no laughing that. That is straight fact. I'm worried. Okay, because they're acting crazy.
I'm worried for you.
And I hope it doesn't spill over, man. I really hope it doesn't spill over. What the cool thing now that we're seeing, at least in terms of the status and the update of the war, is that we're seeing the Western countries starting to move and mobilize with a little bit of these sanctions, which was very difficult for them to be able to move with. You know, the criticism was that the Western countries were not taking this as seriously as they should. And once it came truly knocking on their front door over the last 4 days, we've seen some very, very quick actions. Namely, Germany is now increasing its defense budget to 100 billion euros, which is unprecedented. They're busting the bank on that. A bunch of donations and planes, crafts, military equipment. All of that is being sent over to Ukraine. For most accounts, it is turning out that Russia's overestimated or underestimated they underestimated Ukraine's ability to be able to defend themselves and their tenacity in being able to do that. So the war is not proving out as quick as they expected it to be. However, at the same time, as of the recording of this podcast right now, Russia has recently commented that they are prepping their nuclear defense section on high alert. Nuclear is on high alert.
Nothing good follows nuclear. I don't know if you knew that, but when you say yeah, I don't, dude. Low alert, non-nuclear is what I want in general. Man, so it's a very tough and tricky and complex situation. As I alluded to earlier, part of that situation is that people in the Ukraine are fleeing to the borders. We're seeing some racial discrimination at the borders. People of color, especially the Nigerian population, folks of Asian descent, folks of Arab descent, are being kind of rerouted. Haitian too, as well. I'm not sure what the Haitian population is like in the Ukraine, but they're what's been reported is that they're specifically singling out people of color, rerouting them, and so embassies of certain nations like Nigeria, there's a significant population of Nigerian folks in the Ukraine, are trying to reach out to the folks that are on the ground and give them clear directions on how to get out. But just the fact that has to come into it, the fact that people are being turned away in favor of white Ukrainians and non-immigrants, regardless of citizenship, is just like, why you gotta bring race into it? It's already a war. Why?
But race was always a part of the Ukrainian narrative, right? Now, before, if we're keeping everything a bean, before the war kicked off, the far rightist movement within the European space had taken a very loose home in Ukraine, where they were having these festivals, these Nazi festivals, which might be actually called Nazi Festival, like Nazi Festival 21. That might be the name of it. You know, very
wow.
flash.
All right. Well, Do not attend Nazi Festival 2021. Instead, attend Cotton Fest, which was built by Ricky Rick in South Africa.
Hey,
Music and
shout out
street
to Ricky
culture.
Rick.
Shout out to Ricky
Inspired the fit. Ricky Rick inspired the fit for today. But no, so those parts of those parts of the world are quite racist. When I was in Kazakhstan, growing up in Kazakhstan, just a young lad, which is also another peripheral former Soviet Union country, in order to just be able to speak about in context, right? So it's somewhat comparable. Um, I was the first black person that these people had seen before. You know, there would be times where we're going through the mall, we had to move with somebody because you would get harassed, you would get people staring at you, you'd get people touching you, people trying to touch your hair, people screaming different
People
things
trying
at
to
you.
touch their hair in public randomly?
Bro, there was a time we are supposed to go into we're supposed to go into a theme park, right? In the line of the theme park, there was so much chaos around me being black in that line that we never made it in. We had to leave. We had to force our way out and leave.
What?
That's a
You
fact.
were Prince, but but just because of your skin color, that's crazy.
Why Prince though? Like, and I'm not mad at you calling me Prince, but like, why is that the artist that goes to your head? Because many artists you could have called up.
I wanted to pick one that wouldn't feel bad. I wanted to pick one that you would feel kind of good about. But like because like getting that type of attention isn't always a positive thing. So I wanted to put a little bit of a positive spin on it. But that is messed up, and I'm actually sorry that happened to you. It's hard. It's impossible to process those things as a kid. Like we're just out here like what? Like even as an adult, low key, sometimes racism sneaks up so quick into a situation that it slaps you across the face, and then it makes its escape. And now you're left there, unless you have another witness to talk to. You're kind of like, did that just happen? Was that as racist as I thought it was?
Post racist event confusion is a whole thing, dude. I don't know how much research is being done on that, but that question, was that racist, is something that a lot of people ask themselves after something clearly was.
Bruh, man. So
yeah, I'm glad you touched on the students though. Thank you. And touching on the people of color in Ukraine right now who are struggling to be able to get out. I know the South African embassy specifically has put into place some things for people to be able to reach out, and is trying to get some of our folks out there. And I think other Africans can also try and hit that line. Yeah, man, that's important. And in the spirit of being able to highlight not just a singular thing, because there are a lot of wars that are happening in the world right now. There is, we lift up Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Libya, Mali, Mexico, Nigeria as well in some particular parts. There's a few things happening in the world right now. So this one thing also highlight that what these folks are going through, to a certain extent, some other people are living through terrible realities as well.
And with all that going on in the world, it can be hard to figure out what is our place in it. What are we supposed to do? We're trying to figure that out in real time because we do this show, because we talk that talk. We are here to try and speak the truth that we can find on the situation. But the truth that we can find, our truth, we invite other people to share their perspectives and their truths about these situations. And we lift up love and a fist for everybody who's enduring the struggle across the world. As my brother said, the skies are falling, the winds are calling, stand for something or die in the morning.